I got a 163, which is lower than I thought it was going to be and lower than my goal score. I want to try and hit about like 173, 174. However, I was taking practice tests and surpassing the 170s. So I don't know if it was just like an off day for me or what, but yeah, that's about where I'm at.
Got it. Thanks for sharing. So you experienced a significant test day score drop from the practice to the actual, right? And that's actually quite common. We see students drop maybe 5 to 8 points on average. Could be bad proctor, tech issues, nerves, anxiety. And so part of it is to raise your baseline, but going in, but also part of it could be maybe one of those factors played a role. Looking back on it, did see anything seem off to you during the test itself?
No, not like particularly. I was noticing that like I was getting pretty fatigued about halfway through, which like I don't know, isn't particularly uncommon for me. But yeah, my guess is that just like for whatever reason, I was especially like zoned out a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, so fatigue, unusually fatigued endurance was a bit lower than typical based on your practice test experiences. How many
Yeah.
practice tests did you take going into the exam?
Um, Full practice tests, I want to say like 8. And then I was doing like a section or 2 pretty much every day.
Okay, so 8 exams in total. And over what period of time did you take those exams?
Over like about 2 months, I started studying in June, and then took it in September.
So it was roughly 1 exam a week or so.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sounds pretty reasonable cadence. I usually recommend at least 10 exams, so eight's not too far off from that. And remind me when you're retaking it now. You have a plan for
Oh
retakes?
yeah, I'm gonna retake it in November.
November. Okay, so we still have another month and a half. Are you going to maintain that same once a week cadence of practice tests?
Yeah, that is definitely my goal. It'll be a little bit different probably with school starting. I had like a lot of the summer off. But yeah, my goal is to still take one like every Saturday.
Okay. I think that's a good move. I would also think about on the days that you're not taking full practice tests, could you do not only a single individual section, but maybe here and there, could you do 2 sections back to back?
Yeah, I could probably do that. Like today is my first day of class, so I don't really know what the term will look like in terms of like homework, but I like that should be pretty doable.
Good. I'm just looking for more ways that we could potentially get you more endurance at bats because two
Yeah,
sections back to back is not a full exam, but it's half of one, and that's going to give you something. I
yeah.
would also think about, do you have any kind of pre-test ritual or warm up that you do
Um,
or could do that might help with maybe potential anxiety?
yeah. I mean, I usually try and like get up at least a couple hours before the exam. That way I like have enough time to kind of fully wake up and like switch into testing mode. And then I will usually do like a drill set of just like 10 questions just to kind of switch my brain into like, yeah, LSAT academic mode. But I don't do much beyond that because I don't want to like risk over exhausting myself before the test starts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that even 10 questions is a lot for a warm up. I
Okay.
would usually say maybe just 2 or 3.
Okay.
I mean, 10 questions is almost half a section.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, so I'd say the idea is that you're really just looking to get your brain fired up a little bit so that the first questions you're doing are not the ones that count. And
Yeah.
ideally, these should even be ones that you've seen before where you already know the answer, where
Yeah.
it's just kind of going through the motions, kind of like lifting a barbell with no weights on it to work on your form before doing the actual. So just something to think about there. I'm also thinking about like, do you do any breathing exercise or mindfulness or visualization? Like, does any of that speak to you at all?
Yeah. Yeah, yes and no. I like think I already kind of naturally just have some of that integrated into my day and like have just kind of like grown up doing sort of, being aware of my breathing and like noticing when I like am like so focused that I kind of stop breathing. But Yeah. So yes and no.
Okay, so you do it in general, but you haven't done it like that much LSAT specifically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You might get, since you already are somewhat like attuned to that, maybe it's worth incorporating some of that more consciously with your LSAT specifically, so that you're not just doing it at other times of day, but you're doing it specifically prior to a practice test or one of these timed sittings. And maybe you do it a different version of it before your practice test. So if there's a way that you could modify it in some way, it doesn't even really matter what, just make it personal to you, whatever feels most natural. But if you could do something that is LSAT test specific, where you only do it prior to these timed sittings, then you do it on the actual as well. That could be another way to ground you or orient you, so that test day itself is connected to all those prior sittings.
Okay. Yeah.
My goal here is to lower your stress arousal or your sympathetic nervous system, so that test day feels more comfortable and smooth.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that like for me, I guess what like kind of threw me for a loop is that I like exited the test feeling very much like that felt very normal, and that felt like every other practice test that I've taken. And I don't particularly have something to point to of like, oh yeah, like I know I didn't get a good sleep beforehand, or I know like whatever factor. And so, yeah.
No, I hear you on that. I mean, my other thought is around the fatigue element. One thought I had was to have you do more two-section sittings in addition to the weekly practice tests
Okay.
to reduce the warm-up duration from 10 questions to only 2 or 3,
Okay.
to work on the mindfulness or stress reduction prior to your tests. Those are all the things that immediately come to mind for me, since nothing jumps out specifically.
Okay.
Are there any other, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else I could recommend for you specifically here around all of that. Did you take it in person or remotely?
I took it in person. And I think that like for the most part, it kind of needs to stay that way. I went through quite the process of trying to find a place to take the argumentative section in a way that like fulfilled all the LSAC requirements for the space. Yeah.
Well, that's another disconnect, right? I mean, we're switching from the testing, we're switching here from taking the tests in a more comfortable environment to an in-person Prometric testing center, and you're suggesting that maybe it's not so easy for you to find a quiet environment to take the exam and that meets the rules and requirements.
Yeah, I'd been taking all the practice tests just like at my university library, which is like quiet and for the most part like felt very similar to the Prometric testing center. It's just that yeah, any like quiet space to take it officially is like either it has glass walls or is like not completely closed off for X whatever reason.
Mhm. I hear you on that. Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. It could be that you your test day experience is somewhat different in the Prometric Center versus these other environments. Do you feel like they are similar or dissimilar?
They felt pretty similar. The only thing I would say is that the testing center was in a like windowless room, and so I have not like everything I've been doing is usually a lot of natural light, but like I don't know if that's something that would particularly make much of a difference. Um, but yeah, that was like the only thing I noticed is that it was like darker than I am normally working.
Are you going to take it at the same center again in November?
Uh, it will kind of depend on what is available. I am currently like halfway between a center to the north and a center to the south. Um, so I went to the north one the first time, and we'll see which one I can like get in with in November.
Right. I mean, if you can try to book the same one again, then at least you know what to expect.
Mhm.
Known knowns, unknowns versus unknown unknowns, whatever that is, right? I mean, we want to be as familiar as we can. So maybe can you
Yeah.
take it in a dark windowless room, as unappealing as that is? Maybe that's what you want to do for this next take,
Okay.
your next practice test. So then
Mhm.
ideally you take it at the same center.
Okay.
My other thought is, can we raise your baseline in some way? I mean, drop. It's normal to drop to some extent, maybe not as much as you did, but are there in terms of the content of the test itself, are there any opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like with more consistent practice, it's just one of those things where like the more you flex that muscle, the easier it comes. And I know specifically I have like a hard time with like parallel reasoning or like matching reasoning. And for the most part, when I see one, I just like skip it completely because I know that it's like not worth the time it's going to take me to do that. But I mean, obviously, it's ideal not to have to skip any questions. I just don't know if there is like enough room for improvement, or like if I worked on that specifically, I would get quicker enough to make it worth doing those questions.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, parallels are not going to be a huge lift because there aren't that many of them, but I can give you two quick thoughts now. I mean, when I look to match on parallel questions, I look for the degree of certainty in the conclusion and the category of things they're discussing. So degree of certainty would be like this always happens, or this never happens, or this sometimes happens, or this happens the majority of the time. So how certain are they in the conclusion of both the stimulus and the given answer choices? Then that's the easiest thing to look for. You can often eliminate 1 or 2 choices out of 5 with that as a first pass. Then secondly, I would look for the category of things they're discussing. That would be like all people in the world versus all people who take the LSAT versus all people who take the LSAT and score 170 or above versus all people who take the LSAT, score 170 and go to Harvard. Like we're getting more and more narrow, but you want to match the qualifications in terms of how they narrow the scope. That's a harder thing to look for, but that will also get you to eliminate another couple of choices as well.
Okay. Awesome.
I don't think parallels are the biggest lift for you. I think probably the bigger lift is going to be more focusing on test day conditions, test day environment. That's what I would be starting with in terms of focusing. And the last thing I'll say is like, are you replicating the sitting of the exam besides the room and all that? Like, are you doing the 4 sections, 35 minutes each, only 1 break in the middle, not checking anything else? That's the other thing in terms of seeing drops.
Yeah, I mean, I have extended time, but I'm doing that. Like
you're matching your constraints.
Time. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think that everything else checks out. I would look at what we said in terms of pre-test ritual, reduced warm-up, matching testing room more closely, and adding in some more endurance work. Those are the biggest things I'd recommend for you.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome, Sam. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining, and keep me posted on how it all goes.
Will do. Thank you.